What's happening, everybody? Hopefully, everybody had a good week 3. I'm a little under the weather, so I'm not 100% sure how long this will go, but I'm well enough to be able to hang out, talk some shop, um, fallout from week 3, some waiver wire options that may be available to you, and where to ultimately go from here after this week's slate of games. So I'll talk top options. There are a few. It's not the most inspiring waiver wire week, uh, that there's ever been. But there's still it's possible that there's something out there that you're looking for to improve your team. Somebody that might be out there on waivers and somebody that you might be able to drop, like a Zamir White. He can go. But we'll still get into it. And then, of course, we can always take questions. Trades that you guys might be working through, what your current situation is. Are you 1-2? Are you 0-3? Where do you go from here? We can absolutely get into that if that is your situation. And general thoughts outside of start sit questions. As always, I'm happy to look at them. I'm happy to look at start sit questions coming into week 4, but we're not going to get our first run of practice reports until tomorrow. As always, can't really get into it at least until Thursday, because at least then there's a game that we can talk about as far as start sit help that you may have. But then the real start sit help can really start on the weekend. So you can present your start sit questions. I won't stop you from doing so, but I may, as you know, if you've been with me for the past couple of weeks, I do really try to go in depth on your start sit questions when the time calls for it, i.e. Saturday or Sunday morning. But as of right now, there's just not any information to go off of until we see practice reports starting tomorrow. I guess there are practice reports, walk-through type of practice reports for the Giants and the Cowboys, who are the Thursday night matchup this week. But outside of that, the main slate, we're obviously not going to get any reports until Wednesday. And not even those are always the most believable or best source of truth, because a lot of veterans and star players get Wednesday off as a maintenance day anyway. We'll start with the top options for waivers this week that are probably available in your league. If you play in deeper leagues, some of these guys may already be scooped up. So if you're looking for ancillary options to add to your bench, if you play in a deeper league and the guys that I go over are already taken, let me know who the best options are in your mind, your eyes, on your personal waiver wire, and we can chat through what your potential options might be. But I would say right now, I think it's fair to say, if he is available, the top waiver wire ad is Bucky Irving for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I have been a Rachaad White guy since he got drafted, because he came into the league with a pretty prolific pass-catching profile coming out of Arizona State. Arizona State, is that where he went? I'm pretty sure that's where he went. Yes, Arizona State. Yeah, had a strong receiving profile coming out of college, and that translated, especially last year. But I mean, I'm not giving anybody brand new information. Y'all already probably know by now. Rachaad White is one of the most inefficient, ineffective runners at the position in the NFL, and his stranglehold on opportunities has quickly dried up. Bucky Irving has outproduced Rachaad pretty much in every way outside of just straight up receptions. The explosive run rate is there. The general yards per carry is there. he has just been straight up the better player. He's got 145 or 150 rushing yards on the season through 3 games. White has just a fraction of that, not nearly as effective. And Irving, even in a much reduced role week 3, because the Bucs were playing from behind for the entire game. So White was in there as a pass blocker, pass catcher. He's still good at in those roles. But Bucky Irving is this team's early down runner. He got more carries. He did more with those carries. In a week 3 matchup where he was behind the 8 ball from the jump again, because the Buccaneers were trailing in that game, and yet in limited opportunities, Irving looked like the better player. You see fantasy pundits online talking about how Irving's going to take over this backfield before long. And I don't think Rachaad White is entirely going away, but we appear to be trending in a situation where even in shallower leagues, 10-team leagues, you might be able to start Bucky Irving. This is a tougher spot potentially against the Eagles week 4. But after that, moving forward, Irving may find his way into your starting lineup, even in 10-team formats. It's not the easiest stretch coming up. Philly, Atlanta, New Orleans, Baltimore, Atlanta again, the Chiefs, and the 49ers. But after that, it really softens up. Like, Bucky might be a dude that is a second half guy for you. What's up, DFK? That's your acronym from here on out. Good to see you. As always, members will get shouted out, and if they have any questions or comments, a perk of being a member of the channel is you will get priority responses. And give him a follow. He's also churning out content throughout the season, and if you're looking for additional live streams, Dynasty Football Keys gotcha. But Bucky Irving, the Bucs have a Week 11 bye, and they got a tough stretch of opponents on paper coming up for these next 5 or 6 games. This is going to be a true litmus test for the Bucs. They got the Eagles this week. Then they're on the road for 2 division matchups between weeks 5 and 6. They got Atlanta and New Orleans on the road. They come home to face Baltimore week 7, and then Atlanta again week 8. Then they're on the road week 9 against Kansas City, and at home week 10 against the 49ers. That's a tough stretch. And then it's the bye week. But after that, from weeks 12 to 17, Bucky Irving will get the chance to play the Giants, the Panthers, the Raiders, the Chargers, tougher matchup as of right now, the Cowboys, and then championship week they get at home against the Carolina Panthers. They play Carolina again in that same stretch. Bucky Irving has a chance to be a second half / playoff hero for you. Assuming by that point that he has taken on a larger role, and those matchups do not look as daunting as the next 5 or 6 games. So Bucky Irving is the top waiver wire ad if he is still available in your league. And I believe on Sleeper, he is still available in something like, I think, over 50% of leagues. Double check that, because I have him stashed in a league. %44 ownership. So that number is about to go up after tonight, after waivers clear tonight. But Bucky Irving is still available, at least on Sleeper, in 56% of leagues. That's probably a number that is higher on Yahoo. Check that right now. %36. Yeah. So in almost 2/3 of Yahoo leagues, Bucky Irving is available. I would target him tonight. If you have a free roster spot, go ahead and try to add Bucky Irving. Feel free to spend 20% of your FOB. He might not be a guy that you feel super comfortable firing up in the next couple of weeks in some bad matchups, but keep an eye on him for the stretch run. He's got a beautiful schedule after Tampa's bye week in week 11. That would be the top guy. Another dude that you want to probably keep an eye on is Rico Dowdle. He is available in, I think, half of leagues, like about 50% of leagues. It's not great. And the situation in Dallas right now feels a little less than ideal, but I feel like it's pretty clear after the game against the Ravens week 3. Ezekiel Elliott is not going to go away, but he's a shell of himself. Rico Dowdle is the Cowboys' best backfield option on their roster. I guess they could still go out and make a trade, but who would they possibly bring in that is available, that is better than Rico Dowdle? Their chance to do that was in the offseason, and they failed. They only brought in Ezekiel Elliott, who's 29 years old and has already been run into the ground by this Cowboys organization. There's not really much he has left in the tank. They didn't sign Derrick Henry. There were other backfield options like a Gus Edwards or a J.K. Dobbins that they didn't bring in, or even like a Saquon Barkley swinging for the fences. They didn't do that. They didn't draft one, not prominently anyway. So who could they possibly bring in at this point of the season, now that we are in season, that is better than Rico Dowdle? They have Ezekiel Elliott. They have Deuce Vaughn. There's nothing super spectacular here behind him. Dowdle got the most opportunities out of the backfield by far last week. He only got 8 carries, but the Cowboys only ran the ball, I think, 15 or 16 times because they were behind in the game the entire game. And he was in there. He got 5 targets. He turned that into 3 catches for 24 yards. This isn't like anything like super crazy to write home about, but it's clear he's getting the most opportunities, and nothing should change that. And his schedule is solid in the second half of the season. So this might not be a guy that you're firing up anytime soon. But we all know how valuable running back depth is and how quickly you can end up relying on it. So between him and Bucky Irving, those two guys are absolutely worth a stash, worth a waiver claim tonight. Both are available in over 50% of leagues. So there's a chance one, if not both, are available in yours. Trying to think if there's any other like running back options that you can keep an eye on. Cam Akers probably already got scooped because he was a spot start last week. We'll see what happens with Joe Mixon and his potential return. But Akers would be, if Mixon is able to return this week, then Akers would be a drop. But if by chance he flew under the radar and didn't get scooped, he might be worth a look in week 4 against, I think they're playing Jacksonville, so that's a prime matchup for whoever the Texans running back is going to be. Oh, and Roschon Johnson. He looked good. DeAndre Swift did not. Roschon had 62 yards on 12 total touches, 8 for 30 on the ground, 4 for 32 through the air. And I know in 10 and 12 team leagues, he's available. You could probably throw $1 on him or two of FOB. If you're looking for some like super deep running back depth. That's not too bad. And then other ancillary guys like Ty Chandler might already be rostered. Alexander Madison might already be rostered. Alexander Madison might just be the Raiders running back to own outright. As far as, I'm listening, to these suggestions for running back options or waivers. Who should I drop? If you have Zamir White, like, see you later. He can go. I thought that this was his week to prove that he can have some level or amount of competence this year. And holy shit, was I wrong. Now, to be fair, Andy Dalton obviously breathed some life into the Carolina Panthers on Sunday. I didn't expect them to erupt for 36 points, but that's what happened. And pretty much from the jump, they boat raced the Raiders out of the game. So they abandoned the run, went to the air. Even still, Madison was the one who got the touchdown on the goal line. Zamir White was not in for that score. And Madison is the much better pass catcher. Zamir White can go. Zamir White can be dropped. If you have some of these running backs on your radar or on your watch list and you want to try to make an ad tonight, that's a guy you can drop. I'll say Zamir White's 2024 fantasy relevance. We can wave goodbye to that. That's a wrap. That's over. As for the wide receivers, obviously, first and foremost, I want to say check to make sure that Quentin Johnston has not been picked up after his 2-touchdown performance last week. He's obviously volatile with the status of Justin Herbert in limbo. I would be surprised if he plays this week. It doesn't sound like that his injury got any worse, but it is probable, it's looking likely that the Chargers maybe hold him out with them having a week 5 bye, and they have 2 weeks of rest. Get him ready for week 6 and the rest of the season. So Johnston is probably still going to fly under the radar and will not be a guy to consider starting next week. 63%. He's 63% rostered in sleeper, so under 40% availability. So for the most part, he's already been scooped. That's why I'm mentioning. Make sure he is still available, or make sure he hasn't been picked up. Available in 55% of Yahoo leagues. So he's got a little bit more availability over there. If he has been scooped, the guys at wide receiver to take a look at are Josh Downs and Darnell Mooney. Mooney followed up a great week 2 with another really good week 3 on Sunday night. Played 93% of the snaps, 8 catches on 8 targets, so 8 for 8. That's excellent for 66 receiving yards. Not a spectacular yards per target, but that's double-digit half PPR fantasy points. You will take that from a wide receiver 3 every single week. And his usage figures to stay where it's at in this offense. Again, Rondale Moore's not coming back. He's out for the year. Kyle Pitts continues to see almost no targets. Mooney, as of right now, looks like the team's second option in the pecking order. Of course, other than, maybe Bijan after Drake London. But, Bijan's an excellent pass catcher out of the backfield, but he's not commanding 7 or 8 targets every game. Mooney has done that the last 2 weeks. So Mooney's a guy that's worth keeping an eye out on the waiver wire if you're looking for some wide receiver help. Downs would be the other one. He made his return in week 3 after an extended absence that started in training camp due to a high ankle sprain. He missed the first 2 weeks of the season, came back, first game action, played 57% of the snaps, only caught 3 balls for 22 yards. But I would say that's a pretty solid return in your first game action of the year after suffering an injury. And he was the first read over Michael Pittman over any of the other Colts pass catchers. So if Anthony Richardson likes throwing the ball to Josh Downs, those numbers are only going to go up. He's only rostered in a third of leagues on Sleeper. It's probably even lower than that on Yahoo. I'll take a look at that right now. But if he is not rostered in your league, and if you play on Yahoo, there's a good chance he isn't. He's only rostered in 25% of Yahoo leagues. So Josh Downs is available in 75% of Yahoo leagues. You can probably throw just a couple bucks at him if you're looking for some wide receiver help. I would say, I mean, I don't want to discredit what Jawan Jennings did because Jawan Jennings put up one of the most impressive performances we will see this season. I just don't know if he's going to replicate those numbers. He's got a great matchup week 4 against the Patriots, but a 3-touchdown game, that doesn't come around very often. 11 catches, 175 yards, 3 touchdowns. I'm going to go out on a limb and say, Jawan Jennings is a rock-solid football player, a really good wide receiver in this league, and one of the better depth options at the position when everybody's fully healthy. He's not going for 11, 175, and 3 again. So while you could maybe expect 5, 60, and 1, which would absolutely be worth firing up in your starting lineup, you may see some ballooned up waiver bids for him that are just chasing a performance that he's not going to replicate again this year. Plus, it's possible Debo is back week 5 anyway. That is what I've seen the potential timeline to return is for Debo Samuel is week 5. It could be week 6, but in all likelihood, his return is not too far away. Which means with a healthy Brandon Ayuk already in tow, Jennings being able to potentially pop like that, those days are probably numbered. What's going on, Greg? Good to see you. Thanks for popping in. So I'm not going to be pounding the table for Jawan Jennings. Hats off to Jawan Jennings. Hell of a performance. Great week 3. It's always fun to watch players have career days, but that's why they call them career days. They are difficult to duplicate. I can't imagine we see Jawan Jennings put up 11 for 175 and 3 again. 5 for 60, 5 for 75, and a score? Yeah, that could happen. That could 100% happen. But if anybody in your league, first of all, if he's still available, you could throw $5 at him, throw $5 at him. But in all likelihood, his role he will go back to his role as like the wide receiver 3 before long when Debo returns. That said, if you happen to end up with him, I think it's fair to say at this point, and it's unfortunately it's coming a little late. Wasn't predicting 11 for 175 and 3, that's for sure. But if you did end up with him, if you have him, especially if you start 3 receivers, you might as well fire him up this week if Debo is out, which it sounds like he will be. And George Kittle. That would be the other. That's the other element here. If Debo and Kittle are out for a second straight week, then yes, Jawan Jennings should be fired up. But it could be a short-lived experience. That's all I'll say. Hats off to Jawan Jennings. Spectacular performance. But I'm not sure we see that happen again. And then options at tight end, just to throw them out there. Cole Kmet had a really nice day. Ty Conklin had a nice game Thursday night for the Jets. I do still like Ty Conklin. He's probably widely available in a lot of leagues. You figure he has the best chance to retain a regular role as one of the top 2 or 3 pass catchers in his offense. Cole Kmet, on the other hand, will be contending with Keenan Allen when he comes back, in addition to DJ Moore and Rome Odunze. Conklin pretty much just has Garrett Wilson and an aging Mike Williams and Allen Lazard. So I would slightly prefer Conklin over Kmet. If you're looking for tight end help, I assume both are available. My guy, Zach Ertz. I think he was the tight end 10 on the week. I did suggest Ertz over Strange. Strange caught a touchdown, but I don't think he did anything else other than that. Ertz went for 5 for 40. So he scored like 2 points less than Strange. So hopefully he didn't lose by 2 or 3 points and opted for Ertz over Strange. But I do still think Ertz is going to be a viable option moving forward. He is the starter at tight end for Washington. Jaden Daniels looks unbelievable. Like, waltzed into Cincinnati last night and just completely outclassed, outdid anything Joe Burrow was doing in Burrow's house. Dismantled the Bengals defense. Jaden Daniels is single-handedly giving you reason to believe in the Commanders' offense as a whole. So if you're going as deep as possible as your tight end stashes, I will continue to pound the table for Zach Ertz. He's a security blanket for the most enticing rookie quarterback this year. Sorry, Caleb Williams. So Bucky Irving, Rico Dowdle, Roshan Johnson, Alexander Madison are waiver wire options at running back. Josh Downs, Darnell Mooney. You could throw Jalen Naylor in there as well. He had a nice day. He had another score. Jordan Addison is supposed to be coming back soon, but he's been dealing with injuries all offseason. And then at tight end, Conklin. I'll say Kmet over Ertz. No, I'll say Ertz over Kmet. Conklin, then Ertz, then Kmet. The problem with Kmet is Keenan Allen will return at some point, and Ertz has the quarterback play in his favor right now. Jaden Daniels, through 3 games, which is a very small sample size, Jaden Daniels is outperforming Caleb Williams right now. So those are waivers. We can get into questions. I'll probably cut this one a little bit short. Again, a little under the weather, so apologies. I don't have the same energy that I usually do, but I will take the questions that I see. Appreciate y'all's patience. As always, members will get first priority as a perk of being a member of the channel. I will answer their questions first, and then I will get to everybody else. If you are feeling so inclined to send a super, you do not have to, but that will be a line jumper as well, and then I will get to everybody else, whether it's a trade question, a waiver pickup question, whatever have you. I am kind of going to gloss over start-sit questions if they don't pertain to Thursday Night Football. I will give you maybe a short answer, but not a long one. For start-sit questions, I always will continue to encourage you to come back for the weekend streams when we have all of the information available to us in the form of practice reports and injury updates, and we can get to it from there. All right, let's get into it. Greg's got a couple waiver questions. Sorry we took the L this week, Greg, but We'll bounce back. Couldn't have seen Juwan Jennings putting up 45 fantasy points. That was not on my bingo card for week 3 on Sunday. Do you drop Hunter Henry? Yes. If you have Ferguson, you don't need another tight end. I don't even know when the Cowboys bye week is. I could look that up right now, but I don't care either. It is week 7, so it's not too far away. But I'll worry about week 7 when it's time, when it's week 7. Yes, Ferguson is back. He is healthy. Drop Hunter Henry. And you can also drop Akers and try to put claims in for both of those guys. If Chase Brown is available as well and Bucky Irving, yeah, try to get both. I would spend 15 to 20% on either one. Actually, I would probably go up to 25-ish% on Chase Brown. I know it hasn't totally materialized for him yet, but the expectations remain high that he will be a rock-solid contributor more frequently than not. So I'm okay with that. I'm definitely okay with dropping Hunter Henry. And if you don't need Cam Akers this week, I'm fine with dropping him to put in 2 claims for both of these guys. Just is it possible that your opponent picks up Akers and then plays him against you in a very good matchup against Jacksonville if Joe Mixon is not able to return this week, which does look to be up in the air. He could return this week. It's possible he doesn't return until week 5. So it might be best to hold on to Akers for a bit longer, but Henry can absolutely be dropped. I guess I prefer Chase Brown, but I'm telling you, it's like as a Rachaad White guy, I've seen enough. Bucky Irving needs to get more opportunities, more snaps, more touches, and I think he'll be fantasy relevant potentially as soon as the second half of this year. Chase Brown probably still more valuable, but I like what I've seen from Bucky Irving. How can you not? And yes, drop Carr for Fields. If you still need to protect yourself from a potential 3rd straight game missed for Jordan Love, yeah, I would throw a buck or 2 on Fields to drop Carr. Yes, I would do that. What's up, Jake? Good to see you. And yeah, I would, of those 2, Greg, or 2 spots, the same 2 running backs. Give me Chase Brown. Give me Bucky Irving. If you're really hurting at wide receiver, then I would say maybe Irving and Mooney. But if not, otherwise, if you could just use the running back depth, give me Irving and Chase Brown. Those would be my targets on the waiver wire tonight. Jake, would I drop DeMarcus Robinson for Mooney or Wan'Dale? Yeah, yes. Oh, but you don't want to waste the number 1 waiver priority. Okay, so you don't utilize FOB. If you are not hurting at wide receiver, if you're strong at wide receiver and Mooney and Wan'Dale Robinson would just be bench stashes, and you don't use FOB, then sure, fine. Maybe hang on to that number 1 waiver claim for something more obvious down the line. We hope it doesn't happen, but if a starting running back goes down for the season, his backup, if he's still available, that'll be the time to use a number 1 waiver claim. If a wide receiver goes down for the year and the 3rd option steps into a starting role, like a Juwan Jennings, if we knew Juwan Jennings was starting all year long and was available, then yes, I would say number one waiver priority. But if you're not hurting at wide receiver, and these guys would be nothing more than just like bench depth, I would not put the claim in, let waivers pass, see if one of them is available tomorrow morning, and then scoop them for free then. But yeah, go ahead and hang on to that number one waiver priority. I like Darnell Mooney, and Wan'Dale Robinson has been solid as well. I think he's got like 8 targets in every game so far. Don't quote me on that, but I think that's correct. He had 12 week 1, he had 4 week 2, he had 8 week 3. So it evens out. He's averaging 8 targets a game. That's what it is. 12 week 1, 4 week 2. Yeah. I mean, both are decent, but if you're strong at wide receiver and don't absolutely need these guys, then yeah, I would keep the waiver priority. I would keep the number one claim. But that being said, change your league to FOB next year. That way, everybody has a fair shot at all of the free agent options. You're not beholden to a waiver priority that gets established just based off of the reverse order of how the draft went. Not a fan of that. I much prefer FOB. That way, we all have the same equal opportunity to get the same available options on the wire. And Greg, no, we got to hang on to Pittman for a little bit longer. I know he's wildly disappointing, but you know who else is like a little disappointing right now? Anthony Richardson. Like, it's not totally on Pittman. Richardson has been erratic throwing the ball. We have to hope now that he course corrects, gets this stuff sorted out, which there's still plenty of time for that to do. We've only completed 3 weeks of NFL football. There's 15 left to go, 14 for most fantasy leagues, but still. We have to keep riding with Michael Pittman. He's on your bench, but don't drop him. Don't drop him. I like all those wide receivers, but if I saw Michael Pittman on waivers, I would drop any of these dudes that you named immediately to take a shot on Michael Pittman. I would not drop Pittman for any of those other guys. We got to weather the storm. Hold the line with some underperforming players. We're only 3 weeks in. Remember, September NFL football is drunk. Nobody plays in the preseason anymore. Everybody's getting their feet wet. Everyone's finding their sea legs. It's not unsurprising to see disappointing or down performances from big players that you have big expectations for the first few weeks of the season. This is like kind of common at this point. Hold the line. Hold it down with some of your underperforming guys that you were expecting you could rely on this year. We'll reevaluate that situation or situations like that in, let's say, week 5 or week 6. If we're like a month and a half, almost 2 months into the season, and Michael Pittman is still struggling, that's when we have a conversation about what to do. Jake, tag me in. I will vouch for you. I'll vouch for anybody who needs me to talk to their commissioner about rule changes, because I got a bunch of them, starting with FOB. Okay, I think I saw, and Greg, I'm not, Lazard is behind all those dudes. I know that he's got the connection with Rodgers and all that, but I don't know. I'm not ready to go there because Mike Williams will be getting ramped up sooner than later. Williams is probably the better long-term stash. Okay, let me go back up to the top. Appreciate everybody's patience as I work through my member questions first and all of the waiver stuff. But let's get into it. And I can highlight comments on here. I should have done that for my members, but I will be addressing my members by their username so they know I'm talking to them. So I'll do it in the future, but let me highlight these questions so that everybody can see what it is that I am referring to. Full PPR, 2 wide receivers, 2 flex. Collins, Neighbors, awesome. Is that Garrett Wilson? Also awesome. Achane, Ramondre, Dobbins, Jaden Reed. Okay. Wide receivers look great. Running backs look pretty good. Is Cortland Sutton worth a claim? Yeah, I mean, not at the expense of any of these names that you have listed. He's worth a claim. Cortland Sutton is a good football player in a less than ideal situation. But 7 catches for 68 yards on 11 targets. I mean, that's good. Those are good numbers. They're wide receiver 3 numbers, but they're good numbers nonetheless. Where does that net out from a? Where did Sutton net out from a finish this weekend? According to Sleeper, he was the wide receiver 38, which is easily his best performance through the first 3 weeks of the season. I like Cortland Sutton, but I mean, I would say your running backs are what you would want to fortify a little bit more than your wide receivers. You have Nico Collins, you have Malik Neighbors, you have Garrett Wilson, and you have Jaden Reed when Jordan Love comes back. I mean, my question would be, is Bucky Irving available? Is Rico Dowdle available? Because Ramondre cratered out on Thursday night against the Jets, and I love his usage, and I'm still very much willing to go back to Ramondre Stevenson. I'll chalk that up to just I hate Thursday night football, especially for the road team. But yes, if the Patriots offense continues to struggle mightily, then Ramondre's usage is not going to matter much. Achane is a baller, but the Dolphins offense right now is in shambles because their quarterback situation is very much unknown. And then Dobbins is off to a great start. He had a down week last week, but that's because Justin Herbert is dealing with a high ankle sprain, so that's not good either. I would want a running back over Cortland Sutton. I would be curious to know who are the running backs available on the wire that you could potentially pick up. Let me get back down to my members. Greg, I might not have completely answered your question, so apologies. I'm not prioritizing those wide receivers if you only have 2 spots, Greg. I am prioritizing Chase Brown and Bucky Irving over those names. Or Rico Dowdle if he's available. Greg, good to see you. Or Jake, good to see you. Excuse me. Thanks for stopping in. Talk to that commissioner. Get FOB added. Get FOB added as how waivers get executed starting in 2025. I would not prioritize any of those guys over the running backs, Greg. I would prioritize Chase Brown and I would prioritize Bucky Irving over those names. That's who I prefer. Let's get that running back depth. Hey, Don, thank you so much. Appreciate the super. Very kind of you. You have Bigsby, Jalen Wright, and Jonathan Brooks on my bench. Bigsby would be the drop here. I like hold Jalen Wright and obviously hold Jonathan Brooks. We drafted Jonathan Brooks with the intention of, or with knowing that we weren't going to have him for the first 6-7 weeks of the season in all likelihood. So he's a hold. I think Jalen Wright is a hold, even though it's a bad offense right now in Miami. Raheem Mostert missed his 2nd straight game, so Wright's involvement could be on the fast track to an increased opportunity. Like his involvement could go up out of necessity, even though it's not a great offense. We can still hold out a little bit of hope on Tua Tagovailoa's return. I don't know how likely that is, but it's possible. Bigsby could possibly be dropped. I wanted to believe in him after last week, week one. But he's dealing with a shoulder injury right now. It limited him last night in all likelihood. And the other thing that limited him is how bad Jacksonville looks. They look terrible. They already look like they may be a lost cause for 2024. If you want to drop Bigsby for Cortland Sutton, Don, I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that. If you can put the number 2 claim in for Cortland Sutton and drop Tank Bigsby, I'm okay with that. And definitely keep Jalen Wright because you have Achane. So hold that handcuff situation together. And keep Brooks right where he is, hopefully in an IR spot. Another rule change rule that I commissioned 3 different leagues. I have 3 IR spots in all of them. Injuries are outrageous in the NFL. I feel like more recently in recent years than maybe in the past, like maybe the 7-8 years prior. Nobody's playing in the preseason, so injuries are way more likely in the early portion of the season. We're seeing that happen again this year. So hopefully you have Jonathan Brooks on an IR spot. Hopefully you have enough IR spots to weather any potential injury issues. If you don't, go to your commissioner at the end of the year, Don, and rally the troops, rally everybody else in your league. Tell them we need 2 or 3 IR spots minimum. Injuries are too prevalent all year long. This adds to flexibility. I don't want to be punished by drafting well. I don't want to be punished for drafting well and then having all those guys get hurt and not having the IR spots to stash them. Just so another mini rant for y'all. But yeah, go ahead and you can put a claim in for Sutton and drop Bigsby. That would work. And that's good. You have an open space. So that's good. So you don't have to drop Bigsby at all. Even better. So go ahead and just put the ad in for Sutton. That works. That works great. And then if you need the roster space, if you eventually need the roster spot, Bigsby could be the drop. But if you have an open roster spot now, you just add Sutton. But yes, he's fine as a stash. He's fine as a bench stash for now. He's a wide receiver 1 in a wide receiver 3 situation, which sucks, but there's still value there. Appreciate the super, Don. Good luck with waivers tonight. Good luck grabbing Sutton. Let's see, where are we at? I know I'm like close to the top. Would I trade J.K. Dobbins and Drake London for CeeDee Lamb? In a vacuum, yeah, probably. As long as your running back depth is strong, if you feel like you have stout, really strong running back options, and let me see if you I don't see any other follow-ups about what your running back situation is. But yes, I mean, if I can go from London to Lamb, the cost to do that is J.K. Dobbins and my running backs are already stout. If I've got 4 dudes that I feel really good about, then yes, sure. If you are thin at running back, it's not that I don't want CeeDee Lamb, but if you are hurting yourself at running back to the point where you don't have strong depth by getting rid of Dobbins, then I would have a little bit more pause doing this. But my short answer is yes. I would do this. I would acquire CeeDee Lamb. London looks good. Dobbins looks good. CeeDee Lamb is a top 3 wide receiver. If you can ever have a chance to acquire a top 3 player at their position, generally speaking, you should do it. But I would want to know definitively that your running backs are in an okay enough situation that will allow you to pull the trigger on losing Dobbins without getting a running back in return. That being said, like, yeah, I'll take CeeDee Lamb. 100% I'll take CeeDee Lamb. I would just want to know who your other running backs are. But if you've got, let's see, London was probably like a mid second round pick, maybe a high second round pick. So if you have Gibbs or Taylor, and then maybe you got Derrick Henry or Kyron Williams in the third round, maybe you ended up with Mixon in like the third or for the fourth round. Derrick Henry and Kyron Williams were probably late second, early third round picks, if not higher. So maybe you don't have one of those guys. But if you have like a Joe Mixon who's on his way back and should be back within the next week or so, if you have Taylor or Gibbs as one of your anchors, if you've got like a James Conner or a Najee Harris, or maybe you got like a David Montgomery who has been great to start the year thus far, if that's your backfield plus Dobbins, then yes, I would trade Dobbins in London for Lamb. But if you're hurting at running back, then I'm not as interested. You have Daniels and Dak. Do you trade one? I mean, I would trade Dak. Jaden Daniels looks like. Am I ready to say this? Am I ready to go out on this on this perch? Jaden Daniels looks like the league winner at quarterback right now. One quarterback leagues, super flex leagues, it doesn't matter. Jaden Daniels is the league winner at quarterback right now. I think you got to go. Yeah, I mean, if it's just a one quarterback league and there's somebody in your league that is hurting at quarterback, maybe they punted at the position, maybe they drafted Caleb, maybe they drafted like a Derek Carr and their situation is kind of icky and they're looking for a quarterback upgrade, I would trade Dak. But Jaden Daniels is the league winner at quarterback right now. Do not trade him. Do not trade him. Keep him. Hell, I'm not a big fan of buying high. But if anybody is out there like trying to dangle Jaden Daniels, fuck it. Go get him. Go get him. Offer your starting quarterback and a depth running back. Or a depth wide receiver. That might be a little bit better. Jaden Daniels is the league winner at quarterback right now. Hey, Derek. Welcome aboard. Derek just became a new member of the channel. Appreciate that. Appreciate the support. Thank you so much. You will now, Derek, be getting priority responses to your questions. Thanks for joining. I don't know what just happened there. Sorry about that. Somehow I just got booted off, but I'm back in. Sorry about that. I was just saying hello and thank you. Hello as a new member of the channel to Derek. Appreciate that. Thanks so much for joining on. Let me make sure I get your questions. I'll wrap up. Yeah, so just to wrap up this thought right here, keep Jaden Daniels, trade Dak if you can. And for anybody who is in quarterback flux, don't be afraid to buy high on Jaden Daniels. He looks like an absolute stud. Okay, Derek. As a new member, you're getting priority access here. So this is a start question. Without knowing a whole lot, again, members always get priority responses to questions or comments. So I'll give some brief thoughts here, but without knowing Wednesday, Thursday, Friday practice reports, start sit questions can be difficult. I will say Montgomery has to be an auto. He's like David Montgomery is an auto, so he would be your flex. I see these other wide receivers. It's a guarantee. David Montgomery is an auto for your starting lineup right now. He's got 3 RB1 performances to start the year. So Dave Montgomery is an auto. You lock him in. Is that Garrett Wilson or Michael Wilson? Or is there another Wilson that I'm not even thinking about? If it's Garrett Wilson, then he remains an auto start. I know that his numbers haven't been like the best, but 5 catches for 33 yards and a touchdown Thursday night. Obviously not great. You expect more from Garrett Wilson, even with the touchdown. You expect him to score more than 12 half PPR points. But the talent is there. I think the Jets are rounding into form. They do have a difficult matchup this coming week against Denver. He will see Patrick Surtain. But Garrett Wilson is one of those unique scenarios. He sees Sauce Gardner in practice every single day. So maybe not as big of a concern. If it's Michael Wilson, then he's not as obvious a start. Let's see. I would go back to the well with Deontay. Who do the Panthers have this week? It might not even matter. Like, Andy Dalton breathed life they have Cincinnati. There's nothing scary about that matchup. Terry McLaurin just cooked the Bengals last night. Deontay Johnson should be able to do, I would think, 60, 65, 70% of what he just did against the Raiders week 3. 14 targets, 8 catches, 122 yards, 1 touchdown. Adam Thielen was put on IR. Like, Deontay Johnson for sure should be in your starting lineup, 100%. I would say Montgomery. I would say Deontay. And then I would say if that's Garrett Wilson, you have to play Garrett Wilson. If it's Michael Wilson, then I would put T. Higgins in as your other wide receiver. Khalil Shakir looks great. He looks awesome. But Higgins knocked off the rust, got that first game under his belt last night. Like, Shakir has 2 touchdowns on the year so far. He's cleared 50 yards receiving the past 2 weeks. Last night he went nuts. Not nuts, but had a really good game. 6 for 72 and a touchdown. I mean, he definitely looks good. I would maybe pump the brakes a little bit on the road against Baltimore this week. Whereas the Bengals, they have the Panthers this week. Yeah, I feel good about that. I would say it's Montgomery, Higgins. It's Montgomery, Wilson, and Deontay if it's Garrett Wilson. If it's T. Higgins, if it's Michael Wilson. But hopefully that helps, Derek. If you have any other questions, let me know. Thank you for joining as a member. Much appreciated. Love the support. It means a lot. It means a lot that you think enough to support the stream. That anybody thinks enough to support the stream. I appreciate you guys coming in and hanging out, whether it's for 10 seconds or 10 minutes or an hour. Appreciate you guys. I only hope that I can help you guys out. It's Garrett. Okay, yeah, Garrett Wilson. Montgomery, Garrett Wilson, and I'll say Deontay Johnson over T. Higgins. With no Adam Thielen against the Bengals, who just got cooked by Terry McLaurin, I'll go Deontay. Red Rocket breathed life into the Panthers last night. No, Sunday. Sorry. Sunday. And it's a revenge game for Andy Dalton. He's playing Cincinnati, the team that drafted him. If you're into those narratives, I know I am. Yeah, Monty, Wilson, Deontay. Can we drop Zamir White? I think I've seen a couple questions in here about this. The answer is yes. Zamir White is this year's version of Alexander Mattison of 2023, which is ironic because Alexander Mattison is now his teammate taking work away from him. Mattison was drafted in like the 5th or 6th round last year after the Vikings moved on from Dalvin Cook, and it blew up in our faces. He was not good. He did not match expectations. Just because he had an opportunity, he was getting overdrafted last year, and look what happened. It wasn't worth it. That already looks like that's the case with Zamir White this year. He was drafted based on opportunity. The coach has been talking him up, to be fair to anybody who wanted to buy in. Antonio Pierce has been singing the praises of Zamir White dating back to last year. And the opportunity was wide open with Josh Jacobs gone. I just don't think Zamir White cuts it as a starting NFL running back, and not being able to get going against the Carolina Panthers, who had allowed almost 400 rushing yards through 2 weeks going into week 3, to get 10 carries and turn it into 34 rushing yards and get vultured on the goal line by a pass catching running back in the aforementioned Madison. We're at rock bottom with Zamir White. You could drop him. You can drop him. What's up, Crumply Heads? Good to see you, sir. Yeah, we can drop Zamir White, whether it's Rico Dowdle, it's Bucky Irving, it's Darnell Mooney, Josh Downs, whoever else is that you're looking at on the wire. If you need a random tight end, if you need Ty Conklin, Cole Kmet, Zach Ertz, we can drop Zamir White. I'm telling y'all right now, I have Zamir White in the league. He's gone. He's gone after tonight. I'm dropping him. You should too. Let's all drop Zamir White together. Rest in peace, Zamir White's 2024 season. I have no reason to have any more confidence in you. Yeah, I don't want to overreact after, a slow start. After just a couple of weeks. But this past matchup against the Carolina Panthers was supposed to be a get-right situation for Zamir White. He fell flat on his face and got vultured by a pass-catching running back in Madison at the goal line. We can drop Zamir White. We can absolutely drop Zamir White. Dallas does have Dalvin Cook, but Dalvin Cook is toast. Cook is cooked. The running back that has the best opportunity for the Dallas Cowboys in 2024 is Rico Dowdle. That's our guy. And if he's available, that's who we want. That's who we want to roster. Not Dalvin Cook, not Ezekiel Elliott, not Deuce Vaughn. Respectfully to Deuce Vaughn. I like Deuce Vaughn. Hell of a story. But we're not pursuing him. And we're not pursuing Dalvin Cook. Cook is at the end. What about Xavier Leggett? Yeah, definitely viable. In deeper leagues, definitely viable. He's probably headed toward a larger workload with Thielen out. 2 catches for 42 yards against the Raiders. Played 60% of the snaps, so Leggett's getting in there. He's getting in there. He's a regular rotational player for them. You figure his opportunity, his snaps are about to go up. So, yeah, larger. I would say in 12, 14 team leagues, I would still probably rather like a guy like Darnell Mooney, who is a vet at this point and a regular starter for the Falcons. Slightly more stable situation. And I like Josh Downs. He's a second, as a rookie, already proved it, had 700-plus receiving yards, made his return this past week after missing time to the high ankle sprain, led the team in first read target share, which means Anthony Richardson looked his way first ahead of all other wide receivers. So those are the types of guys that I prefer to leg it. But, yeah, I mean, that role is going up. That role is going to – so, like, in larger 12, 14 team leagues, yeah, Leggett should absolutely be on the waiver wire radar. And the Panthers now have life with Andy Dalton in at quarterback. There's a sentence I never thought I would say in 2024. The Carolina Panthers have life due to the fact that Andy Dalton is now their starting quarterback. What a world we live in. Question about Jonathan Brooks and his potential return. I would not be surprised. So he's not on the pup list, right? Or maybe he is. I should know this because I have Jonathan Brooks stashed in multiple places. He is. He's on the pup list. So he's going to miss the next game. He's going to miss next week. So the earliest he could return is week 5. I don't think we're going to see Jonathan Brooks week 5. I do think we could see Jonathan Brooks by, say, week 6 or week 7. Of course, he's not going to be a guy that you consider starting while he ramps up, works his way back from the torn ACL, gets his first NFL action of his career, all that good stuff. I do not anticipate being able to fire up Brooks into your starting lineup before, say, week 8. But if you are willing and able to be patient, I do think by, say, weeks 9, week 10, week 11, week 11 is their bye week. Week 9, week 10, if he's able to return in that time frame, and then from that point forward, yeah, he's definitely their most talented player in the backfield. They drafted him in the 2nd round, even with the torn ACL, knowing that he would miss time to start the year. They must believe in him. And the Panthers are, regardless of what happened last week or this past week against the Raiders, they are still very much looking forward to the future. They need to see what they have in all of the young players that they have. They have to put Brooks out there when he's ready and see what they've got. I think he's got a great chance to be a big-time contributor once he's healthy. But we probably need to wait until, I want to say, week 8 or week 9, because then we'll be a little bit closer to a year removed from the injury. But yeah, be patient for another few weeks. He's obviously already out week 4. I don't think he's going to play week 5. I'd be stunned if he plays week 6, just because that feels like a bit of a fast turnaround given the timeline of when the injury occurred. But week 7, week 8, week 9, if we can get Jonathan Brooks back then, I think it'll be worth the wait. I really do. They have to see what they have in him. They're in full-blown evaluation mode regardless of what happened Sunday against the Raiders. And yes, Don, you are correct. Braylon Allen is must-own. He doesn't look must-own. He is must-own. And I apologize for not including him in running back in the running back collection that I mentioned earlier. Braylon Allen absolutely needs to be on the radar if he isn't already rostered. It looks like he's rostered in 45% of sleeper leagues, so he's still available in 55% of leagues over there. How about Yahoo? 36%. So he's still available in about 64% of leagues. Yes, especially if you have Breece Hall, Braylon Allen should probably be your top waiver priority. It's almost too bad. Good for the Jets. It's a great problem for the Jets to have. But honestly, Braylon Allen, it's too bad that he just so happens to be running behind Breece Hall. He would take over 20 other backfields today. Maybe like 15. At least half of the NFL backfields out there, Braylon Allen would probably be that backfield's best option. He just so happens to be behind one of the top 2 or 3 running backs in the league in Breece Hall. But yes, Braylon Allen is must-own. If he's still available on waivers, he is 100% in the conversation for running backs to add off of the wire tonight. And if you have Breece Hall, I would probably spend a quarter of my FOB to get him. Or a top waiver claim if you need to. Yeah, he looks great. Braylon Allen looks awesome. Apologies, I should have included him in my list of running backs earlier. He needs to be rostered, and he is the priority of waivers this week if you have Brees Hall. You think Kareem Hunt is a sneaky pickup? I wouldn't say Carson Steele didn't wow anybody. He had 17 right for 72 or 74 or something like that. Obviously, not like he didn't blow the doors off. But in his first game on the road, the Chiefs seemed like they gave him 17 carries. They targeted him twice in the passing game, so that's 19 total opportunities. He only caught one of those for 2 yards. So we're not expecting the world from Carson Steele as a pass catcher, and that is where Kareem Hunt could come into play. But it wasn't like Carson Steele had a Zamir White week either. It's not like he went in there and had 10 carries for 35 yards and it was like abysmal. They gave him 17 attempts in a close game, in a competitive game. He turned that into 72 yards. 4.24 yards per carry is not amazing, but it's not awful, especially for your first career game. Kareem Hunt will probably have some value at some point during the season, but is he battling with Samaje Perine for pass catching opportunities? I think this situation overall is still very much in flux. Something that's worth keeping an open mind on, for sure. But 17 for 72 in your first career start on the road, that's not bad. That's not bad. And the last piece of the puzzle here is, as far as does he have anything left? I'm not sure if Kareem Hunt does have anything left. He had his most inefficient season of his career last year by a noticeable margin when he was with Cleveland. This is just what happens to running backs. They hit that age 28, 29, 30 cliff, so to speak. Hunt might have his day in the sun here and there throughout the season as a pass catcher, but he's going to have to usurp Samaje Perine for that in addition to Carson Steele. I think Carson Steele had a decent little showing on Sunday Night Football. I'm not rushing to the wall. I would rather have all the names I mentioned over Kareem Hunt. I'd rather have Bucky Irving. I'd rather have Braylon Allen. I'd rather have Rico Dowdle if he's available. Hell, I might rather have a guy like Roschon Johnson, who is probably only rostered in like 5% of leagues, if that. It's a young man's position. And if the football is a young man's game, the running back position is the young man's position within the young man's game. You want those fresh legs. That's the extra boost that we're looking for. Unless they're absolute bona fide studs. And Kareem Hunt in his heyday was a stud, but it's been a while since we've seen Kareem Hunt be a stud. It's been a while. Be effective? Produce here and there? Yeah. Be a stud? It's been a little while. Let's see. I got Greg's questions. Again, I do jump to the member questions first. Member question and comments first. That is a perk of being a member of the channel. So I got to Greg's questions. I think we're down to this trade question. You were offered Tyreek and James Conner for Kamara. No. Because you got a boost at wide receiver this week in the form of both Deontay Johnson and DeAndre Hopkins. And Jamar Chase. Let's be real. Jamar Chase finally showed up. to the 2024 season last night against Washington. Deontay looks like he could be a wide receiver too for the foreseeable future with Andy Dalton in there and no Adam Thielen. DeAndre Hopkins came back to life this past weekend, so maybe he's removed enough from the knee injury where he's healthy now, and the Titans are going to continue to throw the ball. Jameson is great depth. Xavier Worthy is great depth. I mean, Tyreek Hill is incredibly volatile right now. The Dolphins' quarterback situation is atrocious. It's in shambles. And while there is hope that Tua Tagovailoa returns this year, we don't know how likely that is. Connor, I like Connor. He didn't have a great game this past week. The Detroit Lions have a good run defense, by the way. Best of luck to whoever starts for Seattle next week, whether it's Kenneth Walker or Zach Charbonnet, because that is a brutal spot. Although they did just lose Marcus Davenport, so that hurts. But still, Tyreek's value is down. Connor's value is okay for now. But Kamara looks like still one of the best running back options in the NFL. And you could lose Chuba as a viable depth piece later in the season if Jonathan Brooks is able to emerge. So in that case, I'd rather have Kamara than Connor. I know Tyreek is a huge pot sweetener in this deal, but given the circumstances that the Dolphins are dealing with right now, I think I would just stay put. You're 1-2, but your wide receivers all, except for Jameson Williams, your wide receivers came to life this past week. Chase, Deontay, and DeAndre Hopkins all came back to life this week. I think I would keep what you have. I see your quarterback is Mahomes. Okay, so no stacks or anything like that are getting affected because Xavier Worthy is not in this conversation. You have Xavier Worthy, but he's not in the trade conversation. No, I would not. I would keep Kamara. Like, on one hand, yes, Tyreek, buy low, amazing, that's awesome. But, like, what if Tua doesn't come back? What if Tua doesn't come back? Let's see. I got Greg's questions. I got Jake's questions. Don't quit. You're better off quitting. You're not better off quitting. We can still turn this around. I know 0-3 sucks, but you're better off. You're better off staying. You're better off sticking around. At worst, it's a learning experience. We can always get better. We can climb out of these holes. Don't quit. Don't quit. That's what we're here for, to help to sort this stuff out. To help figure this stuff out. Don't quit. We've all been there. I've started off 0-3. There's time to turn it around. It might not feel like it, and it's an uphill battle for sure. There's no doubt, but we're not quitting. There's still time. We can figure this out. We can figure this out. Stay the course. Make some trades if you have to, if you can. We'll get this sorted out. You're fine. Greg, I see you have a new question. Again, for anybody just joining me, I do get to my members first. That is a perk of being a member of the channel. I see everybody else's questions and comments. I will get to all of them, but I got to get to my members first, the ones who help keep the lights on around here. That is a perk of being a member of the channel. Is Mixon back this week? It's 50-50. D'Amico Ryans was non-committal. That was the last I saw in his press conference about Mixon's availability. Same with Dameon Pierce this week. So practice reports will be telling. I feel inclined to speculate that Mixon maybe misses practice tomorrow. And then let's see if he can get back into a limited fashion Thursday or Friday. So to that point, maybe hang on to Akers for through waivers. It would suck if ultimately Mixon returns and then getting rid of Akers at the time of waivers ends up going to waste. But Akers retains value for one more week, obviously, especially in this matchup against Jacksonville, who look putrid. Akers retains some value if Mixon is out. Since we don't know if Mixon is back this week, we haven't gotten any new reports or updates about his availability. So maybe just hang on to Akers. But a waiver claim for Bucky Irving and dropping who were we dropping? Derek Carr? Or Hunter Henry? Hunter Henry. Drop Hunter Henry for Bucky Irving. And yeah, hang on to Akers for one more week or for one more day. Let's take it one day at a time. If Mixon returns to practice on Wednesday, tomorrow, you could probably drop Akers tomorrow. If he misses practice, then you hold on to Akers. I would hang on to Akers and I would keep it one day at a time. But yes, keep that waiver claim in for Bucky Irving. We want Bucky on our roster. 100%. Where am I at? I got through the member questions. Greg, hopefully I got everything. If you got anything else, just let me know. This is a trade question. What would I rather have? CeeDee Lamb and David Montgomery or Rashee Rice and Alvin Kamara? Sheesh. That's pretty... I would say Lamb is a top 3 or 4 option at wide receiver every week. I'm willing to say Rashee Rice is a top 8 to 10, maybe top 7 or 8 wide receiver every week. Rashee Rice is that guy. He's that dude. He's a top 20 flex ranked player rest of season. He is a set forget guy in your starting lineup. So are these running backs, honestly. Montgomery's off to a great start. Kamara's big advantage is he has the backfield pretty much to himself. Montgomery obviously splits with Jahmyr Gibbs. That's close. I would say that's a pretty fair trade. I'd rather have Lamb than Rice, but it's close. And I'd rather have Kamara than Montgomery, which I guess maybe there's a bit more of a gap there, but Montgomery has 3 running back 1 performances to start the season, so maybe it's not that big of a gap. Rice is on an offense that I know will be fine all season long. Kamara is on an offense that could be volatile. They blew up the first 2 weeks of the season, and then they had a dud against the Eagles in week 3. But Kamara had a good game. He had over 100 yards from scrimmage. Montgomery, all he's been doing is racking up touchdowns, and we know that behind that Lions offensive line, he will be good all year. And the Cowboys should be fine as far as just throwing the ball to CeeDee Lamb, who is an elite top 3 wide receiver in the league. That's tough because it's very fair. I don't know why, and this could be volatile, but CeeDee Lamb of these players is the guy that was drafted in the first round this year. So based on that, I'm inclined to say the Lamb side. But Rice and Kamara are both off to amazing starts with no reason to believe that that'll stop. That's tough. I might say Lamb and Montgomery, but like it's close. I would say both sides are coming out on pretty good with that. I would almost say I might just want to like this trade is giving me so much pause. I might just want to keep whichever side I have is the side I might just want to hang on to. You could argue both sides very easily with this trade. I might slightly prefer the Lamb side, but damn, it's close. It's real close. Slightly the Lamb side, but like if at the end of the season Rice and Kamara outscored these guys, it wouldn't surprise me. Very interesting trade. I think it's very even for both sides. Okay, Greg, I got your questions. I got Jake's questions. Don, thank you again for the super. Appreciate it. Let's see. We're down to trade Dobbins and Bowers for Kelsey and Mixon. No. I mean, do you have Dobbins and Bowers? Because if yes, I want to keep that. I do not want to acquire Travis Kelsey right now. If you are getting rid of Kelsey in this trade, then yes, do the deal. But I do not want Travis Kelsey. Not at all. The Chiefs told us in the offseason that they were going to be managing his reps and monitoring him and preparing for the postseason with Travis Kelsey, and therefore not like overusing or overexerting him during the regular season. And so far, that has been true. That has been true. If you are getting Dobbins and Bowers, my answer is yes. If you are trading Dobbins and Bowers, my answer is definitively no. If you already have McBride and you don't acquire another tight end, if you have Bowers, trade him for something that you actually need. Well, McBride, I guess McBride did pick up did McBride pick up a concussion? I thought I saw. Yeah. So McBride's not going to play this week in all likelihood. So maybe hang on to Bowers for one more week. Maybe hang on to Bowers for one more week. But if you have a backup tight end for a clear-cut stud like Trey McBride, of course Bowers has been a stud as well, I would not be trying to acquire another backup tight end. I would be trying to acquire more running back or wide receiver depth. I don't want to trade a backup tight end for another backup tight end. Nah. A backup tight end for a wide receiver? Yes. A backup tight end for a running back? Yes. A backup tight end for another backup tight end? No. That being said, if you have Bowers, you might as well hang on to him for this week because McBride is in concussion protocol, and that's probably not good for his week 4 availability. I see now you have Gibbs, you have Dobbins, you have Brian Robinson. Okay. You have Gibbs, Brian Robinson, Javonte, Ray Davis. No, I'm not doing that deal. I would do Bowers and Dobbins for an upgrade at running back if you can make that happen. I would do Bowers and Dobbins for an upgrade at running back. So find somebody in your league who desperately needs a tight end, offer them Bowers and Dobbins, and then whoever their RB2 is, could be their RB1, depending on who it is, ask for that player. Get a big upgrade at running back. Because you'd be giving up Dobbins, you'd be getting back Mixon, who is hurt. Could come back and be fine, but is hurt now. But then if anything happens to Gibbs or Brian Robinson, you may have to start Javonte Williams. I don't want that. I don't want that for you. Hold Bowers for a week. Play him since McBride is probably going to miss week 4. And then you can try to trade Bowers and Dobbins for like a running back upgrade. And yep, once again, Zamir is a drop. Zamir White is a drop. There is no need to hang on to him. I'm at the end of my rope with Zamir White. This game was supposed to be proof that he could be fantasy relevant this year, and he flopped. Like fish in a barrel, Zamir White flopped. Since you have both Connor and Trey Benson, that combination is easily more valuable to me than Zamir White. Trey Benson is more valuable than Zamir White as a stash. So yes, if you need a drop, if there's either a guy that you have stashed in IR that you need to activate because he's no longer IR eligible, or if you're just looking to create space for a free agent pickup, or you're looking to make a waiver pickup outright, Zamir White is the guy that you can comfortably drop. 10 carries for 34 yards against the Carolina Panthers. Lost a touchdown opportunity to Alexander Mattison. Zamir White's a drop. 100% Zamir White's a drop. Let's see. I got through all of my members. Appreciate y'all's support as always. Means the world to me that you guys think enough to support the channel, to hear me to hear me blabber on. But hopefully I help some folks work their way through the season. Should you bench Pitts for Ferguson? Yeah. Kyle Pitts has what? 3 targets in every game this year? Like, what the hell are we doing, man? Oh, no. 3 targets week 1, 4 targets week 2, 5 targets week 3. He's going up. That's progress. So I guess he'll get 6 targets week 4, 7 targets week 5, right? I'm joking. But, like, yeah, you can start Ferg for Pitts. I will say I hate road players on Thursday Night Football. Let that be a caveat that is well known. I do not like starting players on the road on Thursday night. But this is not a scary matchup for the Cowboys going against the Giants. I know the Giants just beat the Browns, and good for the Giants. They just went on the road and beat Cleveland. But Dallas should be okay in this matchup. I do not like Thursday Night Football players, and I especially don't like them on the road. So that admittedly does give me a little bit of pause to definitively fire up Ferguson over Pitts. But you can. You can fire up Ferguson. Even on a short week on the road, you can fire up Ferguson over Pitts. Pitts' usage continues to be frustrating. You can move off of him for now. And as far as Kenneth Walker, I have not seen anything recently. We could be getting a 3rd straight week of Zach Charbonnet, which would mean he's an automatic plug and play, even in a bad matchup against the Lions. Yeah. No update for Kenneth Walker. Practice reports this week will be telling. If Walker can get in there, if he can get back to practice, he is a guy that you are firing up into your starting lineup, even though it's a bad matchup. But we got to wait and see what practice reports look like. But there hasn't been any word on Kenneth Walker. And the Seahawks are notoriously like one of those teams that they take until the end of the day to submit practice reports. So we're probably not going to know until closer to the end of the day tomorrow as far as the first practice report of the week for Seattle. Yes, they would. The Dolphins would absolutely love to have Andy Dalton right now. And they messed up. in a big way, not having better alternative backup plans, knowing that Tua has a concussion history, an extensive concussion history, and going into the season with Skylar Thompson as your quarterback too is a detriment to the rest of the guys on that roster. The front office of the Miami Dolphins failed the team. They failed the team because now they're scrambling. They're hoping that Tyler Huntley can come in and save and salvage their season. And Tyler Huntley has been a solid player when he's had his opportunity with the Baltimore Ravens, but now he's getting pretty much picked up off the street from Miami, hoping that he can keep them afloat depending on when Tua is able to return. That is not the way to go about your backup quarterback situation when you have a starter with an extensive concussion history like Tua does. Yeah, the Dolphins would have been smart to try to get you probably trade like a 6th-round pick in the offseason to the Panthers for Andy Dalton at the time. They're not going to do it now, but at the time, you probably could have gotten away with it. That's poor planning, poor execution by the front office of the Miami Dolphins. They messed up. And now their season is going to pay the price. They're going to waste a year of Tyreek Hill, who is – how old's Tyreek? Is he 29 at this point? I mean, no, he's 30. He's already turned 30. Tyreek is 30 years old as of this year. Like, the Miami Dolphins failed themselves. They failed the team. They failed the fans. The front office failed. They absolutely would love to have somebody like an Andy Dalton, a Gardner Minshew, who was available. All you had to do was sign him to dollars. He was probably looking for starter money. That's why he went with the Raiders. But, you could have tried with him. Yeah, they failed. The Dolphins failed. And now we're paying the price. Anybody who has Tyreek Hill, anybody who has Jalen Waddle, hell, anybody who has Devon Achane, we're paying the price. I will apologize. Because going into week 2, I was telling people to target Malik Willis, to pick up the Colts defense and stream them against Malik Willis. I was wrong. Malik Willis looks like a great reclamation project for the Green Bay Packers. Kudos to Malik Willis for getting in there with almost no time to learn the system. And the Packers are 2-0 in his starts. And he has looked really good doing it. Malik Willis officially has, we're looking at least a 7 or 8 year career in the NFL in some capacity, possibly longer. He has proven me wrong. I'm sure he's proven a lot of people wrong. I'm happy for him. Definitely happy for him. I don't prey on the downfall of players. I just called it like I thought I saw it, and I saw it wrong. So I saw it wrong. You're always welcome to hold me accountable. I encourage people to hold me accountable. If I make a claim or a call and it's wrong, this is what we do. Call me out on it. I'm not going to get offended. You can tell me I was wrong. 100%. I was wrong. I got that one wrong. Shout out Malik Willis. He might get an opportunity somewhere as a starter, way sooner than I could have anticipated after he got traded to the Packers. Good for him. Good for the Packers. Sorry, Tennessee, honestly. He has looked good in his 2 starts, no doubt. Arrow is pointing firmly up on Malik Willis's prospects moving forward. 100%. I'll take the L on that one for sure. Ertz, Freiermuth, Komet. Ertz first. Ertz is my guy this year as a streamer. And if you believe in these narratives, it's a revenge game against the Arizona Cardinals, his old team this week. Ertz first, Komet second, Freiermuth third. I think Freiermuth had a decent game this past week. No, he didn't. 4 for 33. I think he had a nice catch. Freiermuth is a distant third. Pat Freiermuth is what he is. He is a good NFL player. He is not a fantasy-relevant tight end. Komet went nuts. He had 10 catches. I think he had 97 yards. But if we're looking at the long view, Ertz figures to be more likely to have a regular role in the Washington offense as Jaden Daniels' veteran security blanket, as opposed to Cole Kmet when the Bears get Keenan Allen back. Whatever the latest is on that. I assume we do not have an update on Keenan Allen. We're not going to get updates on anybody until probably tomorrow. But he hasn't practiced for 2 weeks in a row, so this issue is lingering and possibly a long-term thing. So that makes Kmet somewhat appealing. I would still put him second in the waiver claim over Ertz, unless you're concerned about the rookie potentially starting to take snaps away from Ertz. But Ertz is a veteran, something that I think is helping the rookie quarterback, giving him a security blanket that he can trust and believe in. Whereas Kmet, again, had a great game, but DJ Moore, Rome Odunze, if and when Keenan Allen returns, there's just a little bit more receiver depth in Chicago than there is in Washington, which is why I slightly prefer Ertz to Kmet. Freiermuth is third. Jared Goff or Sam Darnold for this week or just moving forward? Because Goff has been kind of up and down. Darnold looks really good, but how will that last the course of the season? I'm trying to look at their schedule. Sleeper just crapped out on me. Just taking a look at their numbers. Darnold, I know, had like 180 passing yards and 4 touchdowns this past weekend. He had a really good performance week 2 against San Francisco against some decent odds. Nobody was expecting that. He gets the Packers on the road this week, then the Jets, then a week 6 bye. Lions, Rams, Colts, Jags, Titans, Bears, Cardinals, Falcons. It's pretty good. It's a pretty good schedule for Sam Darnold. Now, his playoff schedule is a little tough. Week 16 on the road in Seattle, not great. Week 17 at home against Green Bay, could struggle. But for the next 7 or 8 weeks, Sam Darnold does not have a difficult schedule. Goff has a tough matchup against Seattle this coming week, and then he's got a week 5 bye. So both of these quarterbacks have early bye weeks. But then Cowboys, Vikings, Titans, Packers, Texans is tough. Jags is not. I guess they have very similar schedules because they're in the same division. Goff has the 49ers on the road championship week 17. I would slightly say Darnold, not just because his matchup is better this week, but I think his matchups in the coming weeks look a little bit more palatable, top to bottom. And Goff has a bye week 5. Darnold has a bye week 6. So you could theoretically have Darnold for the next couple of weeks, as opposed to Goff having a bad matchup this week, even though he is at home, and then a week 5 bye. Darnold does get the Jets in that stretch. He gets week 5, I think, so that's a tough spot. But he's at home. He should be fine. I will slightly say Darnold. But Goff will become viable week 6 when Darnold goes on bye himself. They both have byes back to back, so hang on to both if you can. Like that's a one quarterback situation where I'm okay having 2 guys because you can alternate them based on matchups, and they both have bye weeks coming up in the next 3 weeks, so you can flip flop them. Do you trade Brian Robinson for Zay Flowers? No. No, I'm not in on Zay Flowers right now. He will have his weeks. He will have his wide receiver 2 weeks. He might have a wide receiver 1 week sprinkled in there, but then he'll do what he did Sunday and catch what, 3 balls for 20 yards. Yeah, and then even 6 for 37 week 1. He had a strong week 2, but like you would have to be absolutely loaded at running back and desperate at wide receiver to make this trade. So I hope that's not the case. I mean, I hope you're loaded at running back, but I hope you're not so desperate at wide receiver that you need to trade running back depth for a wide receiver who, yeah, he'll give you a wide receiver 2 performance here and there, but he'll sandwich it between several wide receiver 3 performances or worse. I say no. I'm not feeling that trade. I would rather have Brian Robinson. I would rather have Brian Robinson. That's valuable running back depth on an offense that is running the ball incredibly well. Like you want to, and Austin Eckler just picked up a concussion, I believe. Right? Is that what happened last night? Eckler's in concussion protocol. So Brian Robinson is going to get like every single opportunity this week against Arizona and get his value up even higher. No, do not trade Brian Robinson for Zay Flowers. You want to start Brian Robinson with the backfield to himself against Arizona. That's what you want to do. That's what you want to do. I did not pick up Kareem Hunt. I just don't think he has anything left in the tank. Otherwise, he would have been signed by now. And you could, running backs that are 28, 29, 30 years old, they're just waiting for a prime opportunity to join a good team. And that might be true. But if they were going to be a more consistent producer, especially as it pertains to fantasy, you want those guys already on a roster. And he was wildly inefficient last year. The worst season from an efficiency perspective of his career. Yes, he's in a great situation going to Kansas City, but yeah, I don't know how much he has left in the tank, and I don't know how much I believe in Kareem Hunt at this point in his age 29 season. I am not feeling Kareem Hunt. He might have his weeks. He could have a week or two here and there, but he's going to have to. It's not just Carson Steele that he has to usurp. He's going to be fighting Samaje Perine for that pass catching role. And Perine has the leg up because even though Perine is also only just got there after getting released a few weeks ago or a month ago by the Broncos, he's been there for a month. He's got the leg up. If they really wanted Kareem Hunt when they added Samaje Perine, then they would have just added Kareem Hunt. They added Kareem Hunt because they absolutely needed depth after Pacheco went down. You traded Andrews and Waddle for Ferguson, man. That's not bad. I'm honest. That's not bad. It just sucks that this is where we're at with those two guys. Mark Andrews is a major concern right now. He could still emerge. Again, he had a weird offseason. He was in that car accident last month. So maybe he's not 100% healthy, but he was not a part of the game plan. It wasn't like he was out there running routes and Lamar just didn't find him. He wasn't even running routes. Like, what was Mark Andrews doing? And they still scored 28 points on offense. They didn't need him. And then Jalen Waddle, yeah, I mean, as long as Tua is on the shelf, Jalen Waddle is a bench player. I mean, you definitely sold low, but in this scenario, it might be okay. At least Ferguson is a viable, usable tight end. I wanted to hold out hope that we don't trade Jalen Waddle and Tyreek Hill in a sell low move in hopes that they could retain a little bit of value. And maybe their names entice somebody enough to give you something more than they're worth without Tua. But cutting your losses might be the move at this point. And I don't like the idea of having to cut your losses, but if Tua doesn't come back, Waddle has no value. And Andrews right now, I don't know, man. There's lots of red flags that you can wave. So I would say, while I'm not crazy about sell lows, this looks fine. This looks fine to me. I can't believe this is where we're at, but I think this is fine. Oh, how the mighty have fallen. I drafted Jalen Waddle in my keeper league myself. I had big hopes that he would be an awesome an awesome like ancillary wide receiver 2 or 3 for me behind a stacked group of wide receivers, and now he is just collecting dust on my bench. I have no intentions of starting him. But yeah, I would say as far as cutting your losses, that's not bad. You have Ertz. Do you drop Javonte or Andrews for a defensive stream? I don't know if I'm ready to outright drop Mark Andrews because he has the name recognition and he does have a pedigree. That being said, you do not want to start the Ravens against the Bills because you don't want to start any defense against the Buffalo Bills. Who are your other options to drop? Is Javonte your worst player? Are you loaded at running back? If you're loaded at running back, you could drop Javonte. You could drop Javonte. I would want to know who your other running back options are, though. I'm not ready to drop Mark Andrews yet outright. But if he has another game or two like this where he can't clear, hell, like 40 yards receiving, then yes, we might reach that point. You have Javonte, you have Dobbins, you have Braylon Allen. Yeah, you could drop Javonte for a defensive stream. Who do the Steelers play? And Sebastian, I see your question. I did not skip it. I'm just like tying this question together. Who do the Steelers play? Because they just look like they're just a really good unit. They have the Colts this week on the road. That's tough. Anthony Richardson has not been playing great. I tend to try to avoid defenses playing on the road. That's not always a foolproof strategy. I would go with the Texans. I would go with the Texans if you can. They're playing the Jacksonville Jaguars. They look like, Jacksonville looks like lunch right now. Like, we can just gobble that offense up without any issues. Trevor Lawrence looks bad. The play calling is bad. The vibes are bad. I mean, I would consider the Texans at home against a sputtering Jacksonville Jaguars. Texans have a pretty good pass rush. I would consider Houston. And I would drop Javonte Williams. You have Jahmyr Gibbs and Brees. You can just drop Javonte. Don't drop Mark Andrews, but don't play him either. I would play Ertz over Mark Andrews, but I would hang on to him for a couple more weeks. And yeah, you can drop Javonte. I would pick up the Texans. I think that's your move. Okay, this was a follow-up to the trade Brian Robinson. You have Mixon, Dobbins, and Chubb. Yeah, see, I'm still saying no. I know Tyreek lost a lot of value. You still have Marvin Harrison. Adams is up and down, but at least you know that you can go go to him each week. Ridley's up and down. Keenan Allen is banged up. But, like, Mixon is hurt. Chubb, I don't have a whole lot of confidence in this year. Full disclosure. I am worried that Nick Chubb doesn't really contribute much of anything this year. That injury was so bad last year. Last I checked, he's still without a timeline to return. Not a good sign. 3 weeks ago, it was speculated that Nick Chubb would be out until midseason. That is the last update that we got. Obviously, we're not at midseason yet, but the fact that we have absolutely nothing to go off of with Nick Chubb, I am not trading running back depth. Brian Robinson might be your most consistently, like, solid RB2 option right now until Mixon comes back. No, I would not do that deal. Yeah. I didn't like the deal before I knew your running back options, and I don't like it now that I do know your running back options. Keep Brian Robinson and fire him up with confidence against the Arizona Cardinals, especially assuming Austin Eckler misses the game with a concussion. Drop Akers or Dubs for a tight end to replace Laporta. I see you have Gibbs and Brees, so without knowing your wide receivers, you could drop either one of these guys. If your wide receivers are stout, you could drop Dubs. If they're not, you could drop Akers. I would pick up Ertz. I did not expect to be riding or dying with Zach Ertz as a consistent tight end stream that I like in 2024, but I've been pounding the table for Zach Ertz, and he hasn't been bad. I think he was like the tight end 10 last night. 5 catches for 40 yards. I think he finished as a low end tight end 1 on the week. It doesn't take much. And he's a vet catching passes from a rookie. Could be worse. Oh, different teams. Okay. Without knowing, like, wherever you're deeper. If you're deep at running back, drop Akers. If you're deep at wide receiver, drop Dubs. Wherever you are deeper. And, of course, I always am inclined to keep running back depth over wide receiver depth. But if you're loaded at running back and you're a little thinner at wide receiver, then you could drop Akers. It depends on where you are stronger. It depends on what is, what do you have better depth of on that team? If it's running back, drop Akers. If your wide receiver depth is good, drop Dubs. And yes, that's just the unfortunate nature of the beast. Teams don't sign older running backs because why do that when we can just sign an undrafted free agent at a, Sam Houston State or whatever. No disrespect to Sam Houston State, but, like, you can just find some random running back off the scrap heap after the draft who's 21 years old and has no tread on his tires. That's more enticing to NFL teams than a 29-year-old running back who's logged. I mean, has Kareem Hunt hit the 1,800 career threshold for touches? No, he's actually at like 1,200 because he missed some time due to injury and suspension. But still a lot of tread on the tires. He averaged 3 yards on the nose, 3 yards a carry last year. That is not good. That is not good. And yes, I would drop Freiermuth for Kmet. I would drop Freiermuth for Ertz. Freiermuth is a good football player. He is not a good fantasy tight end. So yes, you can comfortably drop Pat Freiermuth. Unless it's dynasty, then you have to probably hang on to him. But you can drop Pat Freiermuth for Ertz or Kmet, whoever you're able to end up with. Do you drop Pittman for a Dunze? Is there anybody else that you could theoretically drop? I want a Dunze. I want you to add a Dunze, but, like, who's the last wide receiver on your roster right now? Who's the last running back on your roster right now? Are you rostering a second tight end where you don't need one? Are you rostering a second quarterback in a one quarterback league where there are other quarterbacks available on the wire? My answer is yes. I want you to add a Dunze. I'm not ready to give up on Pittman to the point where I just drop him outright. Demarcus Robinson? Yeah, I'd rather have a Dunze than Demarcus Robinson. I like Demarcus Robinson. He's a good player. But I would rather have Rome Dunze. Even if Keenan Allen comes back, that's fine. Dunze saw 77% of the snaps in his first career game with Keenan Allen playing. Demarcus Robinson is a regular in the Rams offense when Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua are back. But long term, I'd rather have a Dunze. I would drop because Demarcus Robinson goes on waivers. He caught one ball last week. It was for 30 yards, so he made a big play. That was good. But Demarcus Robinson hasn't popped yet. He's going to fly under the radar. You're going to be able to get him back if you really want to. You are not going to get Pittman back if you let him go to waivers. You could, if you want, you can absolutely get Demarcus Robinson back if you drop him. So yeah, I would drop Demarcus Robinson for a Dunze. And if a spot opens up in your lineup or your roster because of an injury and you can stash that player on IR and you free up a roster spot, it'll be easier for you to add Demarcus Robinson back to your team than it will be Michael Pittman. Michael Pittman will immediately get claimed, I would assume, the second he is eligible for waivers to pass, I guess, either on Friday or Saturday. Don't drop Pittman. I understand the frustration, but don't drop Pittman. Not yet. I would drop Demarcus Robinson to get a Dunze. Lex, we talked through your situation, so I think we're good, but let me know if you have any other follow-up questions. And this is the last thing I see here before I'm probably going to shut this down here shortly. I need some R&R. I'm getting over a minor cold. I'm okay. I'm good. Obviously, I've been going for 2 hours, and I wanted to make sure I came and hung out with all of you fine people this evening, but my brain could use like a night on the couch. But I will have something out for tomorrow as well. And then I will be live once again on Thursday ahead of Thursday Night Football. We can sort out any start-sit questions as it pertains to the game. And also we'll have 2 days worth of practice reports by that time. So we'll be able to, the start-sit questions and answers will start to come into focus by Thursday. But any last-minute questions, I will make sure I get to. And if I missed anything, I don't think I did, but if I missed any questions, feel free to let me know. Repost it in the chat if you have to, and I will get to it before I wrap up for the evening. But last thing I see here is your commissioner is trying to move to an IDP format. When you say your commissioner is trying to move to an IDP format, is it like the rest of your league is on board, or it's just your commissioner who's interested in doing this? Have they gauged the interest of other league mates? That would be my first question, because at the end of the day, if your league wants to do it, then do it. I'm not big into IDP. Some people are. There are some YouTube channels or other podcasts that are like specifically geared toward advice for IDP leagues. They love IDP. There are some leagues that exist that way. I'm not into IDP like that. I have played IDP. I'm not a fan of IDP. I already expend so much energy figuring out running backs, wide receivers, and all that stuff. I don't want to spend more time figuring out, do I pick up this linebacker to get a lot of tackles, or do I pick up this safety because, he picks up tackles but could also he gets pass breakups or whatever, and those are extra points. Do I go for the edge rusher to get the sacks? I don't like playing that game, admittedly. That is not my wheelhouse. I will absolutely, if you play IDP, I will absolutely encourage you to go find other channels that support IDP advice. That is not my thing. It's not nobody that I play fantasy with personally is interested in IDP. We're not ever really going to go to that format. So that's not my thing. It's not my cup of tea. If it's your league's cup of tea, then great, go for it. I'm not personally into it. I spend so much energy already on what running back do I pick up? Which wide receiver do I pick up? Which one of these guys do I start? Which one of these guys do I stash? Who's this guy? Which random underperforming tight end or running back or wide receiver do I cut? Which team defense do I pick up and stream? Did I strike gold with a random team defense that I liked at the beginning of the year, but now I'm holding them for longer than I thought I would because they're performing well? Do I now play them in a bad matchup, or do I pick up another team defense and drop another running back to hold two defenses for a week? Like, I'm spending so much time on like other things. I personally am like, I'm not thinking about IDP. I don't play IDP. Respect to the folks who like IDP. Nothing against it. It's just not my thing. So what I would say to the commissioner is this: do not move forward with a rule change just because you want to do it. That's how you lose your league mates. That's how you lose the trust and respect of your league mates. And that ultimately leads to you ending up maybe getting replaced or removed if the league decides to like have a mutiny or whatever. If you're doing things that the rest of the league doesn't want to do. So hopefully that's not the case. Hopefully they're gauging interest. And if the rest of your league doesn't want to do it, they honor and respect what your league wants to do. That's what it comes down to. What does the entire league want to do? The commissioner litigates from there. But a commissioner who's playing judge, jury, and executioner and is just saying, we're doing this next year and that's a recipe for disaster. That's how you lose your league mates. That's how you lose them, their trust and their respect. I would be careful with moving forward with something like that without having overwhelming support. Anytime that I propose a rule change or something different in my league as commish, I put it to a vote and I need 2/3 majority to vote on the. So if I have a 12-team league, I need 8 people to vote yes for a rule change to get instituted. That's how you need to operate, in my opinion. Make it democratic, but the commissioner has the ability to kind of like, I'm the one who will bring these thoughts to the table, and I can maybe sway people who I can get into my corner, and that's where I have that power or that influence. But don't go making rule changes without confirming that the majority of your league wants to move forward with it. So that would be my answer. And hopefully your commissioner takes into account the opinions of your league mates. We are coming up on the end of the chat. I do see a start question that does pertain to the Thursday night game, so I can briefly take this. Without knowing your league's scoring, I mean, the Cowboys are getting gashed on the ground right now, so I would highly suggest playing Singletary. Devontae Smith is in concussion protocol. We got to see what his status report is coming into the week. So that being said, I would say fire up Singletary, and I would probably fire up Metcalf against the Lions. It's not a great matchup, but Metcalf is he can give you a stud wide receiver one performance any given week. I can't say the same about Zay Flowers, and Devontae Smith is in concussion protocol. Metcalf has cleared 100 yards receiving and a touchdown his past 2 games. I'll go back to the well with him, and I'll fire up Singletary as well. In a matchup at home against the Cowboys, their run defense has struggled. So I would play Singletary and I would play DK Metcalf. That's my move. Singletary and Metcalf. Devontae's in concussion protocol, and Flowers is inconsistent. And it's a tough matchup against the Bills. Tough matchup against the Bills. Is this a start question or a waiver wire pickup question between Roschon Johnson or Emmanuel Wilson? The Packers get, what, the Vikings this week? Like, Emmanuel Wilson popped against the Titans. I understand that. I just don't know if I want to chase that production. Roschon did well after having not played weeks 1 and 2. He didn't do as well as Emmanuel Wilson, but he did okay against the Colts. He gets the Rams. That's honestly a really good matchup. That's like the better matchup. Am I on mute? I thought I was good until this point. If you're having a difficult time hearing me, I apologize. We're good. We're good now. All right, cool. Glad to hear it. I've been talking for a while. I hope I haven't been having audio issues, but glad to hear it. So Roschon is in a great matchup against the Rams this week. Emmanuel Wilson is in a not as good matchup against the Vikings this week. If this is a waiver wire pickup, or if this is a waiver pickup, unless you have Josh Jacobs, honestly, I think I might say Roschon as a waiver pickup and as a start this week. Oh, if you need to start him. If it's just a waiver wire ad, you could put claims in for both guys and hope to end up with one. I slightly prefer Roschon. I like Roschon, and I'm also not a DeAndre Swift guy. So I do think Roschon has a chance to emerge in this Bears backfield as the season progresses. And also this week, Roschon plays the Rams. That's a great matchup. They are struggling to stop the run, whereas Wilson gets the Vikings this week, and that's not a good matchup. The Vikings defense looks really good. I'm partial to Roschon Johnson. I like Roschon Johnson. I thought he was a solid player coming out of Texas, even though we didn't really know much about him because he was just Bijan Robinson's backup. But 12 carries or 12 touches, 62 yards this past week. DeAndre Swift did not look good. I know Emmanuel Wilson popped against the Titans. He caught a touchdown, got heavily involved, and did well with his opportunities. But I wouldn't be surprised if his value takes a little bit of a hit this week, going up against a much tougher matchup against the Minnesota Vikings. I would grab Roschon for this week and keep Emmanuel Wilson on your watch list. And if somebody picks him up, I wouldn't be surprised if he's a drop candidate after week 5 because, again, it's a difficult matchup against Minnesota. So I'm slightly inclined to say Roschon. Wilson has a more uphill battle to usurp Josh Jacobs for playing time. I think Roschon's path to playing time is a little easier with his competition being DeAndre Swift, who has not been good so far. At least Jacobs had like a 150-yard outing week 2. DeAndre Swift has not been good so far. I'll say Roschon. And I think he has a better chance to have a nice performance this week in a better matchup against the Rams than Wilson does against the Vikings. That's a tougher spot. Yeah, Roschon. And we are at the end of the chat, so I'm going to be shutting this down here shortly. But appreciate everybody coming in and hanging out tonight, talking shop. Shout out to my members. Shout out to Derek, a new member of the channel. Appreciate the support. Very kind of you to join up. Greg, Crumply Heads, Jake, Dynasty Football Key. I don't think I'm missing anybody else as far as my members. And then, of course, Derek joined on this evening. Appreciate the support. Thank you all so much. Thank you to Don Mack for the super. Very kind of you. Not necessary, but very much appreciated. The support is always appreciated. And, of course, everybody else who came in for hung out tonight, whether it was for a minute or 10 or 30. Thank you guys as always. I will be back on Thursday ahead of Thursday Night Football, 6 p.m. Eastern, talking shop ahead of Cowboys Giants. Come hang out. We'll talk shop on the latest injury reports and what to do if you have start-sit questions for the Thursday night game. And our plan of attack will start to take shape ahead of the weekend. Thank you guys. Appreciate it. Have a good night, and best of luck with your waiver claims. Go get Bucky Irving. Have a good one.